Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. My name is Manny, and I'm here with.
Luke Gygax. I am the son of Gary Gygax, the co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm also a lieutenant colonel in the Army and the brigade executive officer at the 224th Sustainment Brigade, the Dragon Slayers. And I am also known in the gaming community as an author, organizer of GaryCon Gaming Convention, as well as Founders and Legends, an annual stream I do to salute the roots and also look at the great new things that are out there in our gaming community.
It's good to talk to someone that wears a lot of hats, as I do.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about your world that you've made, Okkorim. How would you describe this world exactly for those who just heard about this for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of came about this in a strange way. I run GaryCon Gaming Convention. It's in March every year. It's a memorial convention in honor of my father. And I had just gotten back from a deployment to Iraq. And I thought, well, you know what? I couldn't really write a module for GaryCon 3. I got back like literally just a couple of days before the convention, from the deployment, a couple of days before I flew out and went to the convention. But I said, you know what, for GaryCon 4, I'm going to write the module for the GaryCon Open, which is just a little tournament that we do, 1E style module. And I was thinking, I was like, what am I going to write about? There's so much stuff. So instead of starting just in a small spot and developing my world or developing the module, I said, well, what could this world be like? And I thought of how it's 130 degrees in Iraq, and it was, the terrible terrain and all these things. I thought, okay, well, how about some environmental challenges? What weird things could be there? And I started coming up with this concept of the blighted lands, and I came up with the world Okram. And just for those of you who who may, we'll give you an exclusive here. So it's the world of Okram, but that is basically a little adaptation of Morocco. So yeah, I just took Morocco backwards because my wife is Moroccan. And so I would lean on her. I was like, what's a word for this? And then I would incorporate that into the setting. So the setting itself is sort of a mix between fantasy and a little gamma world in there. So there was a very powerful empire called the Idrisid Empire that existed thousands of years ago. They were masters of elemental magic and essentially had a high technology world, except the technology was magically based, right? So they had cities that had paved streets with, almost like it would be concrete or asphalt, right? There's no seams, it's not blocks of stone. They would just have earth elementals create it, make these beautiful towers that go 600 feet in the air and have an onion top tower, like you would see in the Kremlin, the St. George's Cathedral in the Kremlin. Maybe I got that wrong. St. Basil's. But you know what I'm talking about, the beautiful onion-topped towers, right? But on a massive scale. And they had obviously very large cities. They were interdimensional, interplanar creatures, or ruled across multiple dimensions. Very powerful magocracy. Unfortunately, there was a schism, and during a war, terrible powers were unleashed that ended up destroying their world and their entire society. And so thousands of years later, here we are in the world of Okram, the blighted lands buried beneath the blackened sands and the glass ball. Some of it's glass. It was such high heats. Buried in there are secrets of their society and strange creatures and strange magically mutated monsters and things of that nature. So it's a little bit of cross of fantasy and science fiction. The city of Chentoufi is central to the world of Okram. It is a city that exists. It was built by the Idrisid. However, it was not destroyed entirely as most of the other cities were. So its infrastructure remains, and it's been populated by the current residents of current populations, although they don't understand and can't operate much of the magic that is there. There still exists these great structures in this massive city on the Sea of Najur. And here is where many adventures can take place. Think of Lonkmar, Greyhawk, and some of those weird slave cities that they had oh gosh, what was her name from Game of Thrones? Daenerys Targaryen was overtook and ended up leading some of those cities. Kind of that ancient sort of corruption that's there. Mix that in with some Conan, snake temples and weird cults, all sorts of layers of controlling underworld organizations, all mired up in a bureaucracy that is the city of Chentoufi with 1 million souls. Surrounding it is, the blighted lands with lots of mysterious goodies buried in there and strange monsters to explore. And there's more. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So I would see it as a Bosphorus style setting. So it is a mix of East and West. So it's a place where you can take your party who may be in the Forgotten Realms or more kind of Western European based setting. They could sail across the sea and end up in Okram and experience a little bit of an Eastern flavor, but it's like I said, it's a melting pot, it's a mixing area, it's cosmopolitan. And then you can return them, or you could go to, a Far Eastern setting, or I think some people are working on African-based mythos as well. So it's just a little spot where you can transition from a typical, stereotypical fantasy setting there and spend lots of time in, or use it as a stepping stone back and forth.
What books exactly that are out there that help support the world of Okram that viewers can check out?
Yeah, this is a cutting edge because most of Okram is right here. Like I said, I'm a pretty busy guy, so I haven't done a lot, but I do have several modules that I've written, tournament style modules for GaryCon that have fleshed out bits and pieces of it. But right now, if you wanted to get a hold of some things, the best thing you can do is go to DriveThruRPG and search for Gygax. And there you'll see a few of my modules. We have the Eye of Chentoufi, which I had held up. It's that's a little bit of glare on there, but the Eye of Chentoufi, beautiful artwork on the cover from my friend Michael Siragos, who also did the GaryCon 13 artwork, which was inspired by an Okram module. So that is the Eye of Chentoufi, takes place in the city of Chentoufi and is more, has base there, whereas the one I wrote, The Search for Darwa's Temple, that'll be out here in just a week or two. I wrote that. What is the actual first one I wrote for 1E? We converted it to 5E, and it's going to be available on DriveThru RPG, both of those in 5E. And I have a couple other modules that are there. The Horde should be on there. That one is not so much, it's not really based in Okram, that's setting generic. And then one that is kind of cross-genre, it is Nightfall, and it's based off of a scenario, a chainmail, a miniature scenario, chainmail and tactics scenario that was used at an early Gen Con called Sturmgeschütz in Sorcery. And it's two different players. They have no idea that they're playing cross-genre. One is told you're playing chainmail, and you have the fantasy supplement. You're a wizard leading some orcs and a troll who's going to fight somebody. The other person is told it's a tactics game, and you're leading a German patrol to go find some partisans that are causing trouble in somewhere in Russia. And they meet on the battlefield, and their troops are revealed, and they're like, "What the heck is this?" and you mix the two together. So this one, you're in a fantasy setting, and you're chasing an evil necromancer, and you think you have him just in your grasp, when he disappears, and you jump through the portal as well and find yourself in something similar to a World War II setting, and you have to be able to track this guy down, and you end up coming face to face with some of the evil German soldiers from World War II.
Oh, okay. So is this primarily for 5th edition? Is it system agnostic?
Two of them are for more 1E or retro clone, and 2 are 5E. So I write in both. I started off writing 1E. Obviously, I wrote these before 5E was out. And then I've converted a few, and the Eye of Chentoufi and the Heart of Chentoufi, which is the second part of that series, which will be coming out shortly, are written in 5E. And I work with Chris Clark a lot in the 1E stuff, and I'm working with Matt Everhart, aka Casey Rift, on the 5E stuff. I just really enjoy working in tandem with people, because I like to bounce ideas off people and go, "Oh yeah, that's cool, that's great. Let's flesh this out." So that's kind of my style, more so than just sequestering myself and with the computer and banging it out. I like to have that interplay, then go sequester myself, knock out a piece of it, and then run it by people, then expand it and polish it and that sort of stuff.
What options are available?
Yeah, so absolutely. So this sort of stuff, I really, like I said, I'm just retiring in the next about 8 months from now. I'll be out of the Army and retired and devoting myself to gaming more so. But my idea for Okram, like I said, there's this elemental magic, and introduced in one of my modules, the second one, the Tower of Akbaba, is a character class, which I call the Zenek, which is essentially an elemental master. So for me, in my mind, I haven't fully fleshed this out and made it into. Yeah, I haven't nugged out the mechanics, but I'm thinking, well, this is like a prestige class, if you wanted to call it that, if you're thinking like, older editions. It's something that you're going to have probably about 10 levels before you can even access this. Then you're going to have to see if you can learn it, right? If you can find someone who can train you and you can learn an elemental magic, obviously it's fire, water, earth, air, right? See if you can learn that. Then you're going to have access to specific spells. And I'm thinking it's going to be more along the lines of sorcery points, where you're going to be able to just pull forth elements and shape them into various effects, which I need to further flesh out. I don't want to give up my ideas to everybody either quite yet, but it'll be interesting. What I'm looking to do inside the next year is to do a Kickstarter where I take some of my earlier modules, revise them, flesh them out into a campaign style versus, remember, I write these for a tournament. So they're a little bit more on rails, right? In a tournament, you don't have the luxury of several sessions to let your players fully investigate or go on a side quest or these sorts of things. It's a little bit more linear, typically, as you're trying to get somewhere. So I'd like to develop that a little bit more so that you can take little side quests or get off track and explore various areas and not be so linear. And kind of make this campaign arc with the first 3 that I did, and create a setting primer as well that will tell you a little bit about the people that are there, some of the races that are there. There's the Muzri, who are the blue men of the desert. If you think of them as sort of almost Fremen-like, a little bit of influence from Dune all those years ago. Then there's some denizens of in the Blighted Lands who haunt some of the old cities called the Harumi, and they are essentially crossed with, interbred with, demons, devils, Cambions, essentially a type of Cambion, and they're a little bit of influence of the Noom, sort of from Jack Vance and Planet of Adventure. That was kind of my a little bit of an idea there, as well as just Cambions being evil, and they have some certain special abilities and about their culture and how they came about. There's some interesting areas, the rift that's in the Blighted Lands that interconnects. It's a kind of a pathway to multiple dimensions and planes as well. So there's also some interesting interplays with some elementals, the elemental planes. They influence more heavily in the world of Okram, obviously because of the link with the Adrissid and the elemental planes. And there's a hierarchy of elementals. So just like any feudal system, there's more powerful beings than just your run-of-the-mill elementals, that whether they come in 8, 10, or 12 or 16 hit die or whatever they were, size of elementals. There's various types of creatures that occupy, whether it's a plane of fire or whatever it is, and those would be more fully fleshed out and have more influence and interplay in the world, especially as you gain levels and become someone who is inculcated into mastery of elemental powers. You will be drawing upon these nobles in the elemental planes to get some of your power, most likely.
Wow, that's a lot happening in your world. If I may ask, usually I notice that these worlds tend to have, I guess you could say, like a big bad, like Dragonlance has the Kisses, and Forgotten Realms, if you follow Salvatore's books, it's Lolth. Is there anything like that for Okram? Is there what would you what would you consider to be the big bads?
Right. So I don't want to give too much away, but it was a verdant and lush land until in this schism, the Adrisid reached out and they tapped into and summoned something so powerful that it ended up being very angry at being summoned. So, well, I mean, they basically they summoned, did a ritual and summoned the overlord, the king of the elemental plane of fire, and he wasn't very keen on being summoned, so he burned and released all the all many elementals and burned it down. So that was the great cataclysm that destroyed much of the world of Okram. However, they prior to that taking place, there was the essentially the ancient ones who attempted to come to Okram and harvest it, use it as a feeding grounds, and they sent their opening, basically the gate opener and his assistants in to start waging war. And they were clever enough to be able to capture him and imprison him, and that's in one of the early modules that I did. So there are forces that are trapped there, aboleths and krakens and things of that nature, who are more Cthulhu-like, who are attempting to still find a way to open a portal and let the ancient ones come in and destroy the world. So there's a couple different big bad evil guys. It's a dangerous world. You got to be careful.
If you were playing, if I was dungeon mastering this world for you, and you were one of my players, who would you be?
Oh, I would. For me, I like playing spellcasters. So I would definitely, I would probably lean towards wizardry, and then realize that as I discovered about Xenix, I think that's more of a sorceress pact is how I think that would translate into 5th edition. In 1st edition, I'd have to handle a little bit differently. So there's some mechanical differences between whether it's a Pathfinder or a 1E or 5E, and I'll have to nug those out. But I see it as a kind of almost a sorceress pact, and then with access to some very different spell selections and abilities. So yeah, I love that. But there's no reason you can't you can play somebody like a Musri, who's the blue men who live in the desert. They're a little xenophobic, but they draw their ancestry from the Adrisid, who fled the cities and survived in the Blighted Lands. They have bluish, light blue skin, and they have tattoos. They use tattoos which are imbued with magic, but that help harden their skin as well as resist the elements and allow them to live in a very harsh desert climate. But they have enclaves under the sands, where they are, worshiping they worship the uh, elemental plane of water and the gods associated with water and healing. So they're actually we're more goodly aligned, and it's a harsh world, so they're not necessarily pushovers. They've had to be a little bit harder, but they're more beneficent in their outlook. But I said a little bit xenophobic. So there's some neat things. You can learn some magical tattoos and have some access there. Learn some lore. You could be able to dip into their shamanistic, how their magic has become a little bit more shamanistic over the thousands of years. So there's some interesting interplay there with the Musri. The Harumi are pretty evil. I would see playing them and like playing a drow, so which is not really something that is an old schooler that I would have done a lot. I know Bob Salvatore's done a great job with making the drow likable, but they're really not a likable culture. They're pretty, their culture is supposed to be pretty abhorrent to us, right? Because they were the big bad guys, right? Oh geez, what's the whatever the main character's name is? I forget it all the time, but he's obviously atypical. He's an outlier, so that's why he's Drizzt Do'Urden. Yeah. So he's an outlier, which is why we can relate to him, right? And he's kind of a rebel and a good guy. But these guys are vile. They worship demons, and they one of the people who's encountered in the search for Darwa's temple. I'm giving away this a spoiler alert here. She's a prisoner, right? It's this girl, and she's totally innocent, but she's been branded and has like a lot of scarring on her. It's really unfortunate. And of course, she's maybe it looks like perhaps she was just mistreated by people who'd captured the Harumi. But what they did is basically prepare her as a vessel to summon a demon. So basically, on tap, they can, just activate a spell that's been a ritual, right? That summons a demon through consuming her soul and coming out of that portal. So it's very evil, nasty stuff. But it was a nice device as a DM in a tournament. If they have this person in the center of their, they're protecting her in the center of their party, what better way to create havoc than to, have someone activate a spell and suddenly there's a demon that pops up right in the middle there. So, yeah.
So what game master tools will be available in your books? Will there be, like, for example, like tons of new monsters, things like that?
Yeah. There's new monsters and magic items that are already in my modules that I've done. Just little, especially lots of new creatures in the Tower of Akbaba. Basically, you're trying to go rescue someone from Akbaba, who's one of these Xenex. He's powerful elemental mage, and doing a frontal assault is impossible. But you're recruited by by someone to go into the sewer system beneath the city of Chentoufi, and it's quite extensive. It's called the Qanat, which basically is a kind of a twist on the word for tubes in Moroccan Arabic. So it's like tubular tunnels. And my friend Stefan helped draw the maps. Stefan Porny from Dwarven Forge did the maps for him, and one of his Dwarven Forge sets matches all the sewer systems. But the creatures that you run into in the sewers I think all of them are things that I created. Whether it's, there's some crocodile man, there's some special type of spider, there's some really terrible mold that's down there. There's what's essentially kind of like a carrion crawler, but I don't think you can use carrion crawler. It's a unique D&D one, so I just made something that's similar or along the lines of a carrion crawler. Some basically super ghouls that are down there, El Ghoul, that are, because it's an Arabic word, ghoul. I just had fun with that. And then, of course, you get to the Tower of Akbaba, and you go in there, and there's this whole puzzle to work out. I did those, the first 3 modules. I worked with James M. Ward of Metamorphosis Alpha and Gamma World fame. So we worked on those together. And that was a whole lot of fun. But those creatures are available. Gosh, I don't know if I have any of those modules on my website, on the GaryCon website in the merchandise area, but you could check, because I only print off of maybe 100 or 200 of these at a time, and then I would just sell them at the show. But if we had a couple left over, if you go to GaryCon.com, click on merchandise, and you can search around and see if there's some modules there. And my good friend Mike No could put it in the mail for you, and you can have something for yourself after Christmas to read through.
Oh, excellent. So if for anyone that wants to get I guess you could say a first taste of this world, would you say the new book, I'm going to butcher the name, The Eye of Chentoufi,
Chentoufi.
Chentoufi, would you say that's a good place to start?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. If you're a 5e player, pick up The Eye of Chentoufi. It's really laid out beautifully. Matt Everhart did the layout by himself. He's a very talented guy. He's an Air Force officer as well. So gamer and another military officer, really, really smart guy, very talented. Really pleasure to work with him. So yeah, and the art is beautiful. Michael Sirgos is doing the art for the Heart of Chentoufi as well. So yeah, I would recommend that one as a great place to start. And if you like that style, go ahead and pick up The Search for Darwa's Temple. That's actually the first book, first module in Okram that I wrote. And yeah, I think between those two, one's more of a outdoor adventure, and one's the first one. Chentoufi is, a city adventure. So it'll give you a little bit of flavor on both sides, and see if you like it. And Chentoufi is my mother-in-law's maiden name. So,
Oh,
so I
okay.
came, so yeah, so I was like, oh, I need a name, Chentoufi. And that's, that's what my dad did for Greyhawk. If you look at Greyhawk, the Greyhawk, World of Greyhawk, it's all people that he knows, essentially, all the names of places, like obviously the county of Ulick, that's Luke.
Mm.
Heidi is Heidi. Sundi is my sister Cindy, sorry. Alyssa is Elisa. The Pomarge is an anagram of my mother's name, Mary Jo Powell. So that's the Pomarge. Perrin Land is Jeff Perrin, who wrote Chainmail with him, right? Yeah, Keo Land is Tom Keo, is a good friend of his. So all these are just, a lot of them are names of people that we know.
Okay. You know,
Yeah.
I was going to mention I was thinking in my head the similarity between when you mentioned that Okkorim was a player of Morocco. I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, wait a second, that Gary did the same thing with a lot of his work, where he play around with names. I think there's even a castle named with the backwards version of his name connected to it
Oh,
somewhere. You know.
Castle Zagig. Yeah, that's
Yes.
because he couldn't use Greyhawk. So I have some Castle Zagig stuff up here. I just have to. Where did I move that to? Is that here? No, that's the Earth Journal. Well, I'll have to pull it out and show it to you. But I know I've got it up here. My wife has cleverly hidden it on me. Here
Yeah.
we go. There you go. So
Yeah,
that'd be
that's
the
right.
Castle Zagig stuff. So yeah, so that was my dad's adaptation of Castle Greyhawk. And that's exactly what that was. So he just couldn't use Greyhawk anymore because when he
Yeah.
lost his company, which is a
Another
great, I
story.
mean, what a
Yeah.
story. And if I can I'll shill for my friend John Peterson. He's a great author, huge D&D historian, really good guy. His book Game Wizards tells the story of my dad and losing his company and Dave Arneson and stuff. So if you're like history and want to learn more about D&D, Game Wizards, John Peterson, great book.
Oh, excellent. Oh, excellent. So I guess before we wrap this up, so again, you mentioned that later on there'll be a Kickstarter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Please. Yeah. Stay tuned. You can just follow me if you're on Facebook, Luke Gygax, Instagram, Luke Gygax, Twitter, Luke Gygax. You can find me pretty easily there. Just follow me and I'll keep you posted. But yeah, I'm very excited. Anything that I do, I want to do right. So I'm going to take my time, formulate it. I have a lot of the core done, but I want to make sure that I do it the right way, that I'm going to be hitting timelines and have it smooth. So I know it's very annoying for people to back a Kickstarter and then have it delayed in an inordinate amount of time. So I definitely don't want to be that guy.
Excellent. Well, thank you, sir, for taking the time to talk to us about Okram. I'm keen to check this out myself. And to our viewers out there, stay safe. Please get your shots, and happy holidays. Take care, everyone.